Hey everybody, it's Alix Sabatelli-Rager. Welcome to another one of my installments for Sweet Spot Power for the Body Love section. Very, very excited. Basically what I'm doing here on this website is helping you to get into full alignment, body, mind, and spirit, sense of purpose in your life. And this whole talk today is really all around a foundation of our nutrition that many, if not most people do not understand. And this is around essential fatty acids. And because most people don't understand about how to get these in balance, we have a lot of dis-ease in the body. And then we are taking many other measures to try to balance that out. So this is a foundational piece. I'm going to really dive into this today. I'm going to give you a blanket of how the macronutrients of a meal, our proteins, carbs, and fats, fit together so that you can get a handle on this and lower your inflammation systemically in the body, increase your blood flow, and really, really open up so many more possibilities of getting into your own sweet spot power, again, of a healthy, vibrant, energized, and healing, regenerating body, a very, very clear mind that's creative, focused, and ready to move forward into a clear sense of purpose so you can go out and do what you're called to do and step into your potentiality. So welcome to this call. We are diving into omega-3 fatty acids, and it may sound like a boring kind of dry subject, but you just wait and see what I'm going to cover here. So this talk, I've been in nutrition for a very long time, and this talk is one that I actually created originally and have worked on over the years back in 2003. I had a studio in town and I was teaching this, and then I started teaching groups and even online early in the days when online sharing like this was not available. And it's just been extremely impactful. So it has merged a little bit. I've got some older slides here, but I'm telling you, the information is timeless. So if you don't love the slideshow, don't worry about it, because again, the content's most important. Grab a piece of paper. You're going to want to take some notes. And here we go. I'm going to share my screen so I can share this, this PowerPoint with you here today. Oh, let's see if I can do that proper. Share screen. Desktop 2. And share and play. Let's see if this works. Not quite. Yes, it will. Slowly but surely. Okay, well that took just a moment, so I apologize for that. So we're going to get started. The title of this talk is The Three-Legged School of Wellness. Again, I'm not going to do the entire talk the way that I used to, but my intentions are really just to examine the problem with our essential fatty acids and with our foundation core macronutrients in particular, review the components of diet as they are related to dis-ease in the body and how that's like really at a causal point, because I'm all about getting just at the root of a problem, really only working with the missing components of our diets and of our lives, because there's so many diets out there, and I'm not here to tell you exactly how to eat. I want you to understand what's going on here so that you can decide how to kind of improve and shift some of these imbalances. I'm going to provide some steps to help you get some really good impact and get you going. All right. So basically, you already know this. We're not very healthy. We're dying from cancer. 1 in 3 women, 1 in 2 men are going to get cancer in their lifetime. These numbers are up now. Heart disease kills more women than breast cancer, heart attacks, hypertension. Let's just say it's not a pretty picture. And our children are really no better. We're looking at obesity in our children. Of course, they're getting type 2 diabetes, which used to be adult onset diabetes once upon a time. They're dying of cancer, diseases they should not be getting. So this is not just a genetic problem. This is a food problem in a lot of ways. So this little study, real quickly, it's called, you don't need to read it, it's very small, but this is the Pottinger cat experiments. And this is really just illustrating the genetic tendency. Oops. Oh, anyways, I just missed that. That went the wrong way. It's showing us the genetic tendency where basically they just fed a bunch of cats enzymeless, basically dead food that was void of nutrients. And as each generation of cats were born, they were getting sicker and sicker, developing diseases near the end of the life, and then in the middle of the life, and then the beginning of life, dying before 6 months, and then no fourth generation was even born. This is literally just from the food they were eating. So this is a serious problem. Now, we're not talking just about cats, we're talking about us, and you already saw what's going on with us. But basically, the study just gives us some insight into why children of today are getting degenerative diseases that used to only show up in humans at the age of 50 or older. So we're looking again at epigenetics. We're looking at the environment of the body. Diseases are not all inherited. Very, very few are, like maybe 5%. They're mostly a tendency or a potential of disease that might be inherited, but we don't have to express those genes. So genetic weakness does not have to manifest, such as, you know, the poor diet and so on. We can actually work on these, and we're doing it. We're hacking. There are all different ways here in the site. You have found the right place when it comes to biohacking and reversing and, you know, healing, reversing. Now, again, this is, I'm not saying that I claim that anything that I do or sell heals, treats, cures any disease. This is not about diagnosis either. This is all for information, but really the writing's on the wall, and you'll be able to put these pieces together and see what your body can do when it's fed properly. So this is just a picture, a very sad picture that is just so common in our life. So really what people are eating today are, you know, gallons of ice cream, 200 sticks of gum, 90 pounds of fat in a year. This is all, you know, absolutely not cool. And even though people know this now, they're still putting their head in the sand and not choosing to make some changes. Now, if you're here on my site, this is, I'm probably, you know, preaching to the choir, but I can't ignore that this is what's happening still. And not only are these foods terrible for us from a macronutrient standpoint, but they're so toxic and void of nutrients, it's just not working out for us. So I'm going to kind of skip over this because this conversation is not really about weight or weight loss. I actually have another talk about losing toxic fat, and it's an amazing interview with Dr. Peter, no, I'm sorry, not doctor, but Peter Greenlaw, excuse me, he's a researcher. Really, really well done. And so we do talk about weight loss, but mainly toxic fat loss that is just natural when you eat really well. So these statistics that you're seeing here, you know, whether it be just getting to your actual weight, really does have a lot to do with your potentiality for expressing disease. It is very important. So I need to share that with you. So we can't afford to be sick, clearly, right? We know this already. We can spend money on prevention, or we can spend it on treatment. And so for every dollar you spend on prevention, you're going to save 3 to 6 times that on treatment. And you already know this, and you certainly don't want to get into, you know, multiple drugs. And so all of these associations, societies, institutions, and the Surgeon General all agree that at least 60% of all death from degenerative diseases, such as cancer and heart disease and strokes, are diet related. And remember, we're diving into fish oil here because it's a huge part of the diet. It's an essential fatty acid. We cannot live without it, and we're not. So I want you to think real quickly. If you have, you know, if any of that even sparked an idea here, rank your own goals. Maybe you want to improve your body composition, you know, change a little bit less fat, a little bit more, you know, lean muscle, which would also convert to weight loss, but good weight loss, fat loss, I should say. Better energy, better health in general, reversing chronic disease, or reversing aging. Again, this is, I was talking about this 2003, and now we have amazing technologies around age reversal. So exciting. This slide, I love this slide because it really is your choice. So whatever you might, you know, whatever might inspire you to take an action, take a peek at this. These two women are approximately the same age. You get to choose how to express. Do you want to express like the woman on the right or the one on the left? You know, it's totally in your hands. Again, you might be already fighting something now. Go to your doctor, do what they, you know, whatever you feel, do your due diligence and do what they ask you to do, but you can do so much on your own nutritionally. It's incredible. And with other things too, other hacks that you'll find here on this website. So it all begins with balance, right? So I'm not going to go into the exercise and the peace of mind, but certainly nutrition, I'm going to dive into just a little bit. So it begins with that, because if you take any one of these three legs off, if you don't exercise or move your body, it doesn't matter how peaceful you are and how well you eat, the stool's going to fall over because you will not have that activity, and that's going to tip you out of balance. Same with peace of mind. If you're a stress case, that's going to be a huge problem for you. It doesn't matter what your nutrition or exercise is if you can't get your mind right, and that's going to change your epigenetics as well. Same with nutrition. So I want you to see, again, balance, 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 okay? So there's also, when we dive into nutrition, with that focus here today, macronutrients, micronutrients, and water. Now, I will talk very briefly about micronutrients, you know, like your vitamins and minerals and things like that, but very, very briefly. I'm not going to go into water right now. I'm doing a whole other class on water, but macronutrients is where we're going to dive in. Okay. So the USDA recommendation for a long time, although it's changed a little bit, was really a pyramid scheme. It really is what made us extremely heavy. And it's really pretty much the same as the diet that's been used to fatten livestock. And I'm sharing this with you now mainly because much of the protein that we're eating, that livestock is still being fed this way. Now, we've got all kinds of diets now. I'm not here to promote any specific diet. I just want you to see that this is what got us into this trouble. They said, don't eat any more fat, you know, and so we stopped eating fat, and not enough protein and way too many carbohydrates. That was a big problem. So 21st century medicine diet is going to be your primary drug. It already, I'm hoping you're seeing, is hormonal control through diet is what this is about. And that's what we're diving into, the hormonal control with essential fatty acids. We're returning to Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And this is one of my all-time favorite quotes. I have it in another talk. The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. So that was Thomas Edison. That's a smart man, and from a long time ago. So let's dive into macronutrients now, okay? I'm going to breeze over proteins and carbohydrates, but you have to see, because it's really important that these are all in balance. I have to address all of these, even though this is a class about fish oil. So we're going to dive into all three, because when you look at protein, carbs, and fats, if they're not in a balance, same as when we looked at peace of mind, exercise, and nutrition, the stool will fall over and you will not be in good health. So we're looking at food balance equaling hormonal balance. And when I'm talking about hormones, I'm not just talking about your regular endocrine hormones that you're used to, but this is actually a foundational hormone set called eicosanoids that are directly related to fats that are more like signaling hormones. They're very short, fast acting, and they are like our cell-to-cell communication. And it's so important to get this, because when those cells are communicating properly and you have that nutrition in place, then things go well and you're able to heal very well. The protein is important because of a specific hormone called glucagon. And your insulin is important, which is part of your carbohydrates, because again, that hormone is part of this whole balance. So insulin, glucagon, and eicosanoids are the hormones I'm going to be talking about. These two major ones that are secreted from the pancreas, and these eicosanoids, the essential fats, so we can get these in order. So these three classes of hormones in the bodies, in our bodies, that are affected by this drug that we call food are these three: insulin, glucagon, and these eicosanoids. They're super hormones. The insulin is also, well, it's basically an energy supplying hormone. It's like this little tractor. It takes that sugar that we intake and it delivers it to the brain, which consumes about 70% of that sugar, by the way. And then it also delivers to your body. And there's a certain amount that stays circulating in your body, in your bloodstream. It's a couple of tablespoons, I believe, or teaspoons worth. And then the rest of it is going to get stored. So excess sugar is going to get stored as fat. It's your storage hormone. Insulin is that. And so it goes through the liver and then gets stored. Now, incidentally, what else gets stored in your fat that is signaled by your liver are toxins, because toxins are really dangerous for your body, to bombard your body. And crappy foods are going to put a lot of toxins in your body, as well as bad water, air, and all kinds of other things. But just understand that those fat cells hold toxins as well. So sometimes when we lose these fat cells, we lose some weight, you can balloon back, because as soon as your liver recognizes those toxins floating around in your bloodstream again, then it's going to produce more fat cells to get them under control, because those toxins are really, really terrible to be hitting up on important organs and systems. So this is why detox is important. Again, check out that other video on that. So insulin is a storage hormone, as well as, of course, what mobilizes your sugar. Now, this next slide is really going to show how this kind of works. You eat a meal or a snack. The glucose goes up, which is from your sugar. The elevated blood sugar, or glucose, goes up in the bloodstream. When it's elevated, as it goes up, insulin is released to lower the blood sugar. I'm sorry, this slide, you can barely see those, the words, I apologize, but it's going clockwise to the right. So all that glucose goes up, and then insulin is released to deliver and lower that glucose, because high glucose is dangerous, and it delivers it where it needs to go. Remember, the brain, your working muscles, it's going to store a little bit in your bloodstream, and then the liver's going to pack the rest on as fat cells. So we don't want to have excess glucose. So that insulin is going to mobilize that glucose and put it where it needs to be. Now, the excess insulin, again, stays in the bloodstream after the blood sugar is normal. So that excess insulin is also a problem. So we've got the glucose being stored and adding fat, but now we also have excess insulin in the body. And that's a problem, because what happens is when you have regular excess insulin in the body, this is what's the foundation of what's called metabolic syndrome, or syndrome X. And this is the basis of high cholesterol, excess weight, gout, low thyroid, heart disease. Oh, I can't read what that one is. Something high blood pressure, diabetes, of course, type 2. This is from the extra insulin, because you had to pump so much of it out to take care of the extra sugar. This is so, so important, because when we talk about the fats, you'll see how this impacts our essential fatty acids and why we need so much more omega-3 fatty acids than you would think. This is so critical. So how can you tell if you're developing this insulin resistance? Because this is really what's going on with, again, poorly managed, like high carbohydrate or high sugar or just too much diets, okay? How can you tell if you're developing it? Well, it's basically central obesity. You're shaped a little bit more like an apple. You'll have high total cholesterol, especially high triglycerides. That's something definitely to look for. We want to keep that ratio low in the we want the triglycerides to be low and our HDL to be high. And of course, high blood pressure. This is something to be concerned about, and you really can impact it a lot with your diet. So that was insulin. Now we're going to talk about glucagon. Glucagon does the opposite of insulin. It actually releases the stored energy from your cells so that your body can use that stored sugar, glucose, as energy to supply to your muscles. That's glucagon. We like glucagon because we have more than enough stored fat in our body to give us energy for a long time. So it doesn't mean that we don't want any carbohydrate. Again, 70% of it's feeding your brain. You're going to need that to think. You do need that. And also we need the fruits and vegetables that provide those carbohydrates. We just don't need lots of breads and pastas, if any. All right. So only foods that contain adequate amount of protein or amino acids, shall I be clear, are going to stimulate glucagon secretion. So if you remember, carbohydrates go with insulin, protein goes with glucagon. Glucagon is our friend. We just are not, it's not getting out of the gate at the same rate as insulin. They both are secreted from the pancreas, but insulin is the first out. Now, just a quick tip, if you're having a salad before a meal, it's the olive oil and a little bit of vinegar on there and whatever spices that is keeping the insulin spike from happening. So you're gonna just remember, you want glucagon out of the gate before insulin. So having bread before a meal is not a good setup, because once the insulin's out, the glucagon's not going to be secreted, and you're not going to be fueling yourself with your own stored body fat or glucose, okay? So just something to keep in mind. I won't get too deep into that. So you want to think of your daily protein intake or your amino intake as a prescription, because if you're not getting enough, your body will actually store, it will actually store more body fat, and this glucon, I forget what it's called, glucagenesis, I can't remember, but it'll actually, your body will eat your own muscle for those amino acids. You'll actually lose lean body mass, which is what happens. You see it all the time with people that go on starvation diets or just aren't getting enough protein. They muscle waste because your body needs these proteins. They are essential amino acids, okay? So you have to get enough in there to support your activity level and to provide that adequate protein to support body muscles and protein dependent structures. So for optimal health, we're looking for a nice balance between insulin and glucagon. Again, they both come out of the same main, out of the pancreas, and I'm just can't get the word right now. So when that balance is achieved, and this is why I had to go into that lesson, you guys, when that balance is achieved, the third class of hormones can be controlled. And those third class of hormones, those small ones that are cell to cell, are called eicosanoids. They can be controlled only when these are in check. Now, this is so important to get because most people aren't balanced in the insulin and the glucagon. So they're not able to have this balance. So keep that in mind also. Like this is a lot in this lesson, but you can go back and listen to it again. But these eicosanoids are powerful, powerful substances that can influence every cell in your body, including your stem cells. Okay, like obviously we need our stem cells to rebuild and repair. Got another video on that in here as well. Some incredible technology now to support that. But nonetheless, these eicosanoids influence every cell in the body, and especially the foods you eat and the fats are the building blocks. These are considered super hormones. All right, they're not being secreted from any glands or anything. This is literally cell to cell. So you can picture that. Now, these are very much related to your responses, how your body responds, such as allergies, asthma, arthritis, hypertension, abnormal blood clotting, and immune disease. You guys, this is like the picture of America right now. So overweight's an issue, of course, in heart disease and these metabolic issues. But look at this. This is so important, and especially in the days that we live in now. So the balance of macronutrients is not that hard to do between the glucagon and the the glucagon and the insulin, the proteins and the carbohydrates. And I'm going to give you the fastest lesson on the planet about those, because I'm not, there's lots of books, you can find your own balance. I'm just going to give you this kind of overview. Getting that balance of macronutrients is just, again, super important. Proteins, carbs, and fats. So I'm going to show you how to quickly build a meal, and we're going to dive into these fish oils. Protein, so Food Education 101, in general, protein moves around and carbohydrates grow in the ground. Okay, now the fruits and vegetables, of course, are the best form of carbohydrates. Some people don't even know that they're carbohydrates, but they're the best form because they have the most nutrients in them, of course, and lots of fiber. So you want to start your plate with some form of a good low-fat protein. If you're vegan, if you're vegetarian, whatever it is, make sure you're getting your essential amino acids built into your meal. Whether it's a combination of things, you'll have to do your own work on that piece. I'm just going to, for the sake of brevity here, I'm just going to use meat as an example. Okay, so start with a low-fat protein for about a third of your plate. Here's a few examples. Low-fat protein choices like turkey, fish, chicken, egg whites, or farm eggs. An organic cottage cheese, very lean cuts of beef. I'm really, really leaning towards, of course, organic, grass-fed, as much quality as you can possibly get, right? If you eat soy, then tofu or soybean imitation meat products. I personally don't eat soy, but that is definitely something many people do. So those are some examples of that first third of your plate. It's about 4 ounces of, let's say for chicken, it'd be about the size and thickness of your hand, your palm. For men, right around 5 ounces, something like that. Balance the rest of your plate with fruits and vegetables, most all of it. And if you can avoid it, then avoid the whole grains. But if you want some, just small amounts, more of a condiment amount, because they're very, very high in glucose. That's the only reason why. And you already know what glucose does. Okay. We already had that lesson. So fruits and vegetables, just some small whole grains on this for the rest of the plate. Then, and so here's some choices for that. Some good choices for a lower insulin response. Again, most fruits, most fiber-rich vegetables, selected grains like oatmeal or barley. And again, with oatmeal, not the instant oatmeal, guys, like go for the steel cut if you can, at least, or slow cooked. That's a really important one that has some other good ingredients in it too. But the poor choices are going to be most grains, of course, pastas, breads, cereals. I don't care if it's organic, if it's milled into a flour, it's going to have a high insulin response, even if it's healthier choice. Okay. Most starches, of course, potatoes, rice, corn. Corn is a starch, corn is a grain. Peas, same thing. It's a legume and it's very, very high in sugar. Selected fruits like bananas, raisins, and dried fruits, they're just higher in sugar. So keep those at a minimum. You know, I usually only will do a third of a banana at a time if I have it at all. Selected vegetables like corn and carrots, like I mentioned, not such a good choice. And here's why. I mean, an example with the breads, you already know this. Again, this is maybe not for this audience, but so you know that you can teach this to people that keep going for the bagel or the pasta. An example of this dense carbohydrate that I'm saying is not such a good idea is pasta or a bagel. And all it is just long chains of glucose. They call it complex. The only thing that's complex about it is that there's lots of chains of glucose. It's not as simple. You mix that with some digestive enzymes, so long as you have some, so that your gut is working properly. And then you just end up pretty much with, you know, a whole lot of glucose. That's just what happens. So an example, 8 ounces of uncooked pasta is about 1 cup of pure white sugar. So that you have a little bit of that, you just in your mind, see that, okay? See that. It's not as healthy as we think. So other choices would be great. Every 4 grams of carbohydrate is a teaspoon of sugar. So you can do the math when you look at how many grams of sugar are on your juice that you might think is healthy and see what that might do to your insulin spiking and that extra glucose in your system that can cause insulin resistance. So 5 pounds of sugar each week is what people are eating per week. Not so good. Effects of too much sugar. It depresses your immunity. This is not a time to be depressing your immunity. Affects your behavior, attention, and learning. It promotes cravings, promotes heart disease, contributes to obesity, and it feeds cancer cells. So just had to get that in there too. So here's what happens with that blood sugar rise and insulin, and this is critical when we get to this fish oil. I'm telling you, I'm just giving you, I might just have to retitle this talk. Blood sugar rise with insulin or with a high sugar carbohydrate. This is what happens when you have a poor choice of the type of carbohydrate. In a 4 to 6 hour period, your blood sugar is going to rise high, and then your insulin is going to pump, 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 pump to get that blood sugar in control, because high glucose is dangerous. And so at 4 to 6 hours, the next thing that happens, well, that insulin does a great job so long as your pancreas is still working and you have enough insulin, and it's going to drop that blood sugar down. But because it was such a fast rise of blood sugar, it overproduces insulin. So it drives that blood sugar down too low. So you're actually getting a low blood sugar response afterwards at just about 1 to 3 hours. So your meal is only, that should have lasted meal to meal 4 to 6 hours, is only lasting 1 to 3 hours, and you're hungry again. This is the average, that black line is the average blood sugar level. I'm sorry, that's the average blood sugar level. So you have this huge spike, this huge drop, and this is the high, low that we see that people have, and they just keep eating. Oops, how did that go that way? So more favorable blood sugar rise with less dense or low sugar carbohydrates, those, you know, high fiber vegetables and just, you know, small amounts of fruits. Now you've got the proper amount of blood sugar that is releasing slower because you have fiber in your diet with those fruits and vegetables. And then you have that insulin is only releasing enough to just deliver it where it needs to go. That's the beautiful thing you're aiming for. This is called the zone. If you're looking at like a diet, the zone diet, or anything that you really are just protein pacing or something that's going to keep you in this nice tight zone where your blood sugar is really stable. This is so critical, and man, will it change your life. I mean, it is so wonderful to feel just clear and focused, and like you're not going up and down this roller coaster and then having your body just respond terribly to that over time. So you're going to get a satiation of 4 to 6 hours when you eat like this. Now, I'm not going into more about that. I want to dive now into essential fatty acids, because again, now you have a sense of how to balance that out a little bit, the glucagon and the insulin, so that we can tackle the biggest problem here, which is the fatty acids. So the fatty acids in the fats that you eat become the building blocks for all super hormones, or these eicosanoids in the body. So naturally occurring fats, now this is going to be a lesson, so you can go back to it again, but you're learning a lot here today. But naturally occurring fats are saturated fats that are basically solid at room temperature, like butter, lard, or solid fat. And then the unsaturated fats are also naturally occurring. These are more liquid at room temperature, like oils. Okay, so you have saturated fats and we have unsaturated fats. That's in general. Now, of the unsaturated fats, we also have monounsaturated fats, which are your omega-9 oils. Sometimes you'll see a bottle of omegas that say omega-3, 6, 9. Okay, so your monounsaturated fats are omega-9 oils. So this is olive oil, olives, and nuts that are also rich in omega-9s. All right, these fats are neutral. When it comes to the eicosanoids, they are neutral. So that's why they are heart healthy. They're not going to affect the balance of eicosanoids. So just plant that in your mind. When it comes to the other type of unsaturated fats, we have what are called polyunsaturated fats. So already we have 4 different kinds of fats going on here: saturated, unsaturated. Of the unsaturated, we have mono, omega-9s, and polyunsaturated, which are 2 kinds of those. We have omega-6s and omega-3s. So the omega-3s are called alpha linolenic acid, otherwise known as ALA. This is your omega-3s. These are, they can come in an omega-3 oil or in flax or in fish in general. That's where you're going to get your long chain omega-3s and also some of the short chain ones. You'll see what that means in a moment. So that's one type of polyunsaturated fat. The other type are omega-6s. So here you've got linoleic acid, which is called LA. And this is also an essential fatty acid. It's omega-6 and it's vegetable oils. So here's where the problem is. Now you can see here's the omega-3, the omega-6, the omega-9. The omega-9 is not essential, but it's a good source of oil, or fat, I should say. The 2 essential ones are omega-6s and omega-3s. And that's what we're diving into right now. The 2 essential polyunsaturated fats. So remember that ALA, the omega-3s, they come from fatty fish, fish oil, and flax. They also come from flax oil, which is a lot of flax seeds pressed into oil. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Linoleic acid comes from vegetable oil sources, as I said, and there are many of them. Okay, so if you're unsure of an oil and if it's omega-3, omega-6 or omega-9, check the back of the bottle, do a quick Google search, because I will tell you right now, we do not need any more omega-6s in our diet. We get plenty of them from our carbohydrate sources, okay? Plenty of them, more than enough. So it comes from vegetable oil. We never should have pressed vegetables into oil, okay? Nor should we press flax into oil. So keep that in mind. So the current ratio of these long chain essential fatty acids, the omega-3s and 6s, is about 20 to 1. I would say this is probably a little bit off right now. It could be even higher. What I will say is that with people with something like autism or Alzheimer's or beginnings of dementias, fibromyalgia, many immune disease, like they can be as high as 80 to 1. From omega-6s to omega-3s. This ratio is so critical to your health. We have way too much omega-6 in our diet because of vegetable oil, all the grains we're eating, deep fried stuff. It's a mess, and not enough omega-3s. The current ratio, like I said, is 20 to 1. The ratio for optimal health is 4 to 6 to 1. So 4 or 6 to 1. And really, ideally, it would be like 2 to 1. That would be hard to reach, but 2 to 1 would be even more ideal. 4 or 6 to 1. So we're looking at a big upset here with these essential fatty acids. Now, for the science geeks out there, this next slide, I just want to show you this slide to make a point. I'm not going to go through it all, okay? So this slide, I'm just showing you, if you look down the 2 lines, there's linoleic acid. It's basically, you've got vegetable oil on the left side, which is the omega-6s, and you've got omega-3s on the right side from these different sources. When you look at the top, you've got 18 carbons. So linoleic acid from vegetable oil just comes right in, and the alpha linoleic acid from flax oil comes in at the top. Both of these essential fatty acids are sharing the same enzymes to go from short chain, 18 carbons, to long chain, 20 carbons. You see the 20 as you go down, and then all the way down to the super long chain, which are the 22 carbons. So they're using the same enzymes as they go through their interactions, okay? But there's so many guys on the omega-6 team that the omega-3 team, not only are there not enough, but they're not getting enough enzymes to even process from flax all the way down to, if you look at the 20 there, it says eicosapentaenoic acid, EPA. That's something you're going to look for on your fish oil bottle, is EPA, which is 20 carbons. And then the 22 carbon, which is DHA. You see this being supplemented on milk containers nowadays because it's what, you know, basically is surrounding your whole brain is made up mainly of these essential fatty acids around the fats in the brain. So EPA and DHA are long chain omega-3 fatty acids. Flax is short chain omega-3 fatty acid, and it's not making it down that chain. If we're eating flaxseed and expecting to get omega-3s, we're not going to get enough. If you make it flax oil, you're still not going to, you actually end up flooding with too much of that oil. It's not going to digest all the way through with these enzyme actions. And again, that's going to have a negative side effect. So we have to get long chain omega-3 fatty acids into our body in order to hit it below the belt and try to get this balance, this ratio balance. I hope that makes sense. You got 20 on one side or more, 1 on the other side. If we don't take EPA and DHA, those long chain fatty acids, we don't have a chance to get these in optimal health. And so I'll show you this in one other crazy fun slide here. So the omega-6 oils, we're not looking at omega-3s now. When we go down those enzyme chains with omega-6, this is where all of this ties together. The linoleic acid from vegetable oil, that first chain, that first enzyme is called the delta 6. This first, just that first step is inhibited by trans fatty acids. So, you know, trans fatty acids are basically from your fried oils, okay? And you know, the stuff that they're putting in junk food, so hydrogenated oils and stuff like that. So that first enzyme is already deactivated or inhibited by some of the foods that we're eating, okay? So this is going to show where all the problems are. So if we can eliminate some of that bad fat, that would help. It's also inhibited by saturated fats. If you remember, the saturated fats were the ones that were solid at room temperature for the most part, like butter, lard. It's also inhibited by high carb diets. So again, that insulin issue, big problem, too much carbohydrate, and also high ALA intake. That's what I was just talking about with flax oil. If you take a lot of flax oil, this enzyme right here is inhibited by too much of that. So you can see that where the diet really, really, really is important. That's why I gave you that lesson ahead of time. So if we make it through this very first delta 6 desaturase enzyme, and it's activated, then it turns into what's called GLA, gamma linoleic acid. This is a great next step, I should say. And you can actually take GLA. It's called GLA. It comes naturally in oatmeal. So again, if you have a bad diet and you don't think you're going to get through that first step, then you want to get some GLA in your diet. You can get it, from, like I said, from good steel cut oats. You know, have a couple bowls a week or you can get it from borage oil, or you can get it from evening primrose oil, but you don't want to take a lot of this. Again, everything is in moderation here. It's the long chain fish oil that you can use a lot more of. So just know that you can get DHA, this second step here. Now then there's an elongase enzyme, which just changes it to a slightly different structure. And then from there, it can go two different ways. The preferred pathway is going to be, if our diets are good and balanced, and we are getting enough fish oils in, the preferred pathway is going to go there to the left, to the favorable prostaglandins of the 1 series. So basically you'll see what those are. If it goes the other way, which is more common, this delta 5 desaturase enzyme is what turns this into what's called arachidonic acid, AA. It's inhibited by glucagon. So remember, if you get that glucagon out first by eating your proteins and fats before your carbohydrates, so that your insulin isn't coming out of the gate first, this enzyme is inhibited. So I hope you're putting it together. It's inhibited by glucagon and also by EPA, which is that long chain omega-3 fatty acid. So, oops, I just clicked. I didn't mean to do that. So if you're getting your long chain omega-3 fatty acid fish oil, which I'll talk about in a moment, and you're eating proper amounts of protein and you're letting that come into your body first before the bread and anything that's going to really rise and spike your blood sugar, you are going to be in a much better space because it's also activated by insulin. So this is what's happening. Most people are going down this the right side here, which is the wrong path. If they're even getting through this, they're producing arachidonic acid. And so all of those omega-6s are turning into cyclooxygenase prostaglandins of the 2 series, which I'll show you what that does, and also this lipoxygenase, very inflammatory leukotrienes, which are, again, inflammatory. So I'll show you what the good ones look like and the bad ones. Now that you can see there's favorable, I'm going to show you what those do, and I'm going to show you what these unfavorable ones do, and I think you will probably become motivated to make some changes. The good ones, when we go down the proper path, inhibit platelet clumping, which controls your abnormal clotting. It helps your vessels to dilate, improving your blood flow to organs and tissues, and it helps to lower your blood pressure. Reduces your body's production of cholesterol in the liver, so that's lowering your cholesterol level. It controls the release of lymphokines, which is boosting your immune system, and it combats inflammation by reducing inflammatory responses in the body. Cool, right? Because we're looking at cell-to-cell communication. These eicosanoids are literally born and functioning at the outside of your cells. Your fats, your fatty acids are what make up the outside of your cells, all of them. And so if they're gunked up with trans fatty acids, which by the way, stay in your body for up to 52 days, 52 days. So those Cheetos stay with you. Those will clog up and keep that communication from happening at all. So trans fatty acids, no good, no bueno. But if we can get that ratio proper, then your cells are talking to each other in such a way and signaling each other to act differently. So this is, again, epigenetics. It's genetic, it's expression. There's cell signaling going on here. And look at what those good ones do. Here's another set of good ones. These are stimulating vital hormones in the thyroid. This is the series 1 prostaglandins, the PGE1. They stimulate those vital hormones in thyroid, adrenal, and pituitary glands, including growth hormone, improves hormone function throughout your body, controls your neurotransmitters, better cell-to-cell communication in the brain and nerve cells, suppresses insulin release from your pancreas, so you have less insulin release. Again, this is it's like good begets good. I mean, good is just like an up spiral, right? Inhibits secretion of gastric acid, so less GI reflux or problems with stomach hyperactivity or acidity, excuse me, and relaxes bronchial tubes, which may result in fewer or less severe asthma attacks. You've heard the word cytokine storm lately, right? That's something that we are working against naturally here. So let's look at what the bad ones do. The prostaglandin PGE2 series, these are coming from that arachidonic acid, if you remember. They suppress your natural killer immune systems, or immune cells, which are the ones that are like Pac-Man that go around looking for cancer cells. Promotes fever and pain, promoting those exaggerated fever and pain responses. Again, that kind of storm. You've got this thromboxane A2, which increases platelet clumping. So you're promoting abnormal clotting, blood clotting. It promotes vasoconstriction. So it's reducing blood flow to your body tissues and organs and elevates your blood pressure. To continue on, the second one of this is the last page of this. It's also these leukotrienes. These are really long acting. They take a lot longer to get in control, but they will. Promotes allergic responses, mild to severe allergic reactions, promotes skin disorders like eczema, psoriasis, and dermatitis, bronchospasm like asthma and reactive airway diseases, pain and inflammation, more severe pain and tissue inflammation responses. If you just look at that right there, that page right there, and you look at what's happening in the world today and tell me if this is of interest to you, seriously. Okay, so common body responses to eicosanoids are just basically on this scale here. You've got pro-clotting, pro-inflammatory, vasoconstriction, and bronchoconstriction on the side of the bad ones. And we've got anti-clotting of this, sorry, it's a little bit wonky here, anti-clotting, anti-inflammation, vasodilation, and bronchodilation. So we're looking for a balance with these like everything else, but right now this is really the picture of disease in our bodies right now. And these commonly result in, again, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, heart disease, asthma, cancer, diabetes, and high blood pressure. So the reason our diets are so omega-3 deficient are really, again, increased use of vegetable oils in food manufacturing, in food service and restaurant industry, overall decreased fatty fish intake, new ways of raising livestock and fish. We're just not getting enough in our diet. This was that beware, partially or fully hydrogenated anything. I think you know this already. Just note and beware of these things. Okay, why is it doing that? These are man-made oils, also called trans fats or trans fatty acids. And I told you before, 1 gram daily increases your risk for cardiovascular disease by 20%. 1 gram of this stuff daily. So really think about those French fries if you're going to have them. Really understand what's going on here. I got my last 2 slides. Actually, I'll throw in a couple more just real quickly. But monounsaturated fats, these are the good ones that are neutral when it comes to that balance. Olive oil and olives, macadamia nuts, pistachios, cashews, almonds, and avocados. These are great, and they will not upset that balance. So this is the fish oil that I recommend. And the reason I'm going to go ahead and put this on here is because I've been looking at fish oils clear back since 2002. And they are so important, and we're not getting enough. And most people are taking a daily recommended amount that's not nearly enough, especially with that ratio. And even if you're getting your diet in check, that ratio is still very commonly still pretty far off. So this is a very concentrated fish oil, every batch third-party tested, and you can look up the batch right on their website. Look at the amount of EPA and DHA in this. If you're going to go, if you have fish oil already, go grab your bottle, screenshot this or save this and take a peek, because with 4 capsules as a serving of this, you have to do your calculation of how many fish oil capsules you would need to take to get 2,000 milligrams of EPA and 1,000 milligrams of DHA. So again, EPA is a big part of balancing and hitting below the belt, DHA for the brain. And this ratio of 2 to 1 is fantastic. So some things you'll see not quite the same ratio. Don't look at the total fish oil milligrams. That's not going to tell you anything except for how much other crap there might be in there. So this is a serving container. It says 8 capsules because these are micro caps. You can, the regular size capsules, they're a little bit more like a horse pill. You only take 4 a day. If you were to take a health food grade to get this kind of EPA and DHA, you'd be taking 8 to 12 a day, which means you're processing a bunch of yuckiness. So you want a highly concentrated, super clean, third-party tested for all the stuff that people are worried about when it comes to fish oil. It's so, so, so good. And I will put a link here below. I'll probably have it go across the screen. If you appreciate this, and you use my link, I get a little kickback. whatever, you know, if you want to just go to the site yourself, you can do that too. I'm educating this because I've been teaching it for years and people just don't know. And this is really important. And actually through that link, you do get a better price. I don't know exactly how much it is, but when you look at milligram and cost with the top brands out there, it's also the least expensive when you go milligram to milligram. So you can do the math when you look at whatever you have, or you want to do your own, take a few pictures at the health food store at some of the bottles that are there, and then, you know, figure it out for yourself and you'll see what I'm talking about. This is just excellent, excellent. Now, if you have, let me see if what's next. I was just going to say, if you have some of those diseases, again, I'm not here to diagnose, treat, cure, heal anything. Don't be afraid to take more is what I'm going to say. You're looking for a, you know, proper ratio, and you can actually get a test. Just comb through that website once you're there. And I think it'll take you right to the cart. So you'll need to use the link to go to the cart. But once you're there, and afterwards, you can see that you can actually submit a test and see what your actual AA to EPA, what your own ratio actually is, your arachidonic acid ratio. So you can get that test done. And also a great indicator is your triglyceride and HDL. So I think you take your HDL divided by triglycerides. No, triglycerides divided by HDL. That ratio, if you want to get that number down as close to 2 or 3, or even 1 if possible, if that number's up around 4 or 5, then you're looking at you know, a lot of triglycerides and not a good profile in terms of oxidation, oxidative stress in your body. So there's some other things. You can contact me if you have any questions, or if you have a lipid panel that you want me to take a peek at and give you a little bit of guidance. So, so that's the main part here with your macronutrients and fish oil and all that good stuff. The rest of the balance really is just, again, get your phytonutrients from your fruits and vegetables, super important, your vitamins from fruits and vegetables, minerals from fruits and vegetables. There's not that many minerals left in our soils. I don't care if it's organic or not, nor are there a lot of phytonutrients unless it's vine ripened. So you'll probably want to look at some supplementation to make sure you're getting some of the critical ones. The other oils to be aware of are going to be, of course, D3. Most people are really deficient in vitamin D, so D3 is going to be important. I still think a couple of other nutrients, phytonutrients, CoQ10 is really important, K2 is really important, just a couple others, and that's really it. You know, a good mineral multi is important to get as well, to help alkalize the body and make sure, I mean, those are your spark plugs, I call them. So there's a lot to really look at. I'm not going to go into any more about this. I'm going to go ahead and stop share if I can. I don't know if I can do it with this. Here we go. I'll go ahead and stop share. I don't know how long that this has gone, but hopefully not too long. And I hope that this really answers your questions about fish oils, about kind of that overall balance, again, of macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats. So you can build your meals however you like. Choose the diet that feels like the right diet for you. I stick by this. I like to keep my insulin in a tight zone. Knowing all of this, it's much easier to avoid grains and some of those things because I value my health way, way more than the taste of that bread. Believe me, I'll still have popcorn every once in a while, and I kind of practice the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time doing the right thing. I have some shakes that I love. So again, watch some of the other videos, the one on toxic fat, and there's a great protocol in there for detoxing and for learning a little bit more about your basically amino acids and the importance around amino acids and proteins. And I've got some great sources for that. And hopefully you'll learn some more here. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name again is Alix Sabatelli Rager of Sweet Spot Power. And I will look forward to hearing from you. And I hope that you get a chance to try this fish oil out. And if you want to take more of it and you want to reach out to me and get a little guidance, please do go ahead and call me. My number will be down here in the description of the video. All right. Thank you so much.